Welcome back, everyone, to the Fight Against Boredom Starborne Players podcast. We are your hosts.
I'm Feca.
I'm Albendinger.
And I'm Branxbro.
Now let's get this week's Fight Against Boredom started. This week's episode is all about how not to be a plant on the tournament server. Woo! Drop day was this past Sunday and came with what was a mostly predictable host of issues at launch. We know it's been a tough week for the developers as well as the player base, so we're going to focus on the community's health and try to highlight what we've enjoyed this past week with all the new updates to the game. To help with this, we've reached out across enemy lines to bring you a very special guest, the guy you love to hate, a guy who takes it with stride and gives it right back, the absolute tyrannical monarch, the source of the return of the space flu, the Primarch of Valhalla, LordBiggles himself.
Yes, hello everyone. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the podcast.
Of course, man.
Nice to have you.
Real quick question before we really dive too deep. How did you manage to get your hands on a sample of the space flu from the quarantine zone?
Well, I believe that after Admiral released it, it was public knowledge that he created the flu. So we just, our poor infected members were able to give us some samples for research.
Wait. So you didn't go in and get the sample yourself?
Of course not. I used one of my minions to get it for me.
So if it wasn't, I mean, you blamed it on Admiral, but it wasn't us. And if it wasn't you, I guess it must have been solid clouds. It's the only logical conclusion at this point. They must have released it.
The only thing we would agree on.
Yeah, it must be.
All right. Anyway, so you want to give some background on yourself. Tell about where Valhalla came from and the sort.
Yeah, Valhalla started on Alpha 8 Server 4, where two alliances merged together to form the Wolves of Valhalla, which went on to actually win that server, I believe. I was, as rumored always, I always go AFK at the end of the server, and 2 weeks before the end of the server, I would go AFK. Because we had a political victory, like I so love. So we started on that server, and we kind of continued for a few servers. We were on Alpha 8 Server 6 for a good start, but that went badly very quickly. And I came back on Alpha 9 Server 6, where we went on to get second place on the server. And we've rebranded ourselves as Hegemony now, but we are still alive and kicking.
That's awesome to hear, man. And you're on Server 1 as well, though, right? Alpha 9 Server 1?
I did start. Yeah.
You've been the other big target. We're often in Admiral's corner, and when you hear on the other side, for those that have just started playing the game or maybe just looking for something to do, he's normally, there's two big groups, and Biggles is normally the guy on the other side rallying, giving us something to fight for. So it's been cool, and it's awesome to have you on.
I mean, there's also Zorka and the Space Marines. Don't leave the little guys out.
Or Space Marines are with us right now, and Zorka is definitely always on the radar. Those guys are always making stuff happen as well, so they're definitely going to be there. As far as this tournament server did start this Sunday, we, like they said, big host of bugs and things to do. What has been your overall just kind of vibe with maybe just the station planner in general? I know there's been a lot of stuff going on with that. Just any of you guys, really?
I love it when it works.
Love it.
It's just like I feel like I have to open up a spreadsheet and plan out every station now, because I'm not. Before it was the usual thing. You knew what to do. You just clicked everything that you had to, and now it's like, what do I need? What can I afford?
I mean, that's kind of, everyone's been like that about it, but I think that's just because it's something new. Like, once we learn the different buildings, once we get those down, then it becomes a straightforward thing. Like, we've never seen this system before. Whereas the first time you join and you see the 3-tree system, like, you're just as confused. So I think it's just about, I've heard that sentiment a lot, but I think it's just about getting used to it and learning this new one.
Well, I think trees are naturally easier to follow anyways, right? There's not as much planning. There's not as many variables. And it's definitely a good thing, especially for a strategy game, to open up all these variables. But I think it's definitely a reasonable argument that it is much more difficult to plan out your station, but it's a good thing because of how many options there truly are. I think it comes to that. Yeah.
I think the customization that the new builder planner gives is definitely vital to the stability of the game for the future. It gives us a lot more options. It gives a more definition to the previous 3 play styles, and it's even opened a 4th play style, which could be used for the game. And I think the planner is actually very helpful and healthy for the future.
Elaborate on a 4th play style. What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, because of the new organizations, I've had quite a few people go Atlas and just kind of rush the organizations to get the influence and then build a
100%.
Build a factory and a factory hammer, which is quite an interesting combination, which some of my guys are planning out. I'm not sure how it will go, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. When you say factory hammer, you're saying like people are kind of just supplying the front lines with like hammers, like so they're kind of like.
Well, it's kind of easily supplying themselves with the actual snowball that they've been able to get across when they've been able to actually queue their buildings, of course.
Yeah, that's the catch, right?
Dang it! You just remind me. I haven't used Big Bill Chattel, the character card for building orgs. Dang it!
Oh well, I had to use them when my level 2 station got randomly leveled up to a level 3 station and they killed Willie. So I got familiar with the new card, Big Bill. Chat on
Rest in peace, Willie Gamish.
Yeah, but we had a lot of people.
Him a lot.
Yeah, I like him.
There's also Counselor Aka, which reduces like the org cost and time by 15%. Which before they actually nerfed Atlas, you could get down like to only a third of the cost and time for organizations.
Yeah.
That was a really fast start.
Yeah, that's been a big plan for I think a lot of our guys waiting for. I think you had to wait 4 days for the first faction change or something like that, and you go, Terran or even like an NPL or something to give you a lot of resources in the beginning, get those buildings going, and then switch over to Atlas and just hammer out a bunch of organizations. And I think we even have some people starting that now, kind of waiting like a full week. Make sure you get that 3rd station out and then really utilize that, because now that we're getting clean slates once a week. That's opening up a lot of playstyles in general, and especially with the uniqueness that we've finally seen of each of these factions, they all feel good, in my opinion. I think there's a decision to be made for real between both the free and the premium factions, even if you only have the 3. I think there's vitality to all of them, and I could really see myself playing multiple factions throughout a game, depending on what I want to do.
Yeah, definitely. The new factions are a huge improvement on the previous system. And I think the balancing is going to be much better for this new system. And your actual faction early game and mid game will affect your build so much more than it used to. And that's quite the fun. You get to specialize more than the previous system.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like where they can add to this too. I'm thinking now that you don't have the structure, if they thought of a good idea for a new building, you could just throw it in there. You don't necessarily have to find room and a structure too. So I'm excited for the development of the game going into beta. You can still add new building.
Yeah, it's a lot more open for future expansion.
For the developer side, absolutely, yeah.
And I like you said previously, like with the new factions, I'm looking forward to playing more servers and just playing the different play styles and even the start. I mean, what surprised me is just how strong the Seok start is. Like, I knew it might work out, but if I look at some of the guys that are playing Seok and just going raid heavy, like, they seem to outpace a lot of other people.
Oh, yeah. We have several players kind of at a wall. And when they originally said that, I was like, oh, you don't have enough resources? He's like, no, I'm maxed out in every one of my stations. Because now, warehouse is a separate building that you have to go out of your way to build. If you didn't think to build that in the beginning because you didn't know, we have players sitting at max resources. We can't build alliance stations yet. That's the little thing. So they don't have anywhere to put the resources. And they're like, well, we had people offering, you can raid me if you want. Like, I'm not doing anything. So that's been a very interesting thing that's happened as well.
I do like what the developers have done so far, where I remember Alpha 8 was a little bit more pay to win than it is now. And I think the gravitation towards more cosmetic items rather than getting in-game advantages has definitely been a huge boost for the community.
Huge morale boost for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And the tournament server is just a complete example of how much more fun it is to not have those pay to win elements in the game, even if they are limited in the normal servers. But the tournament server has so far given everyone an example of how to play when you've got no shop. You've had no shop at all. Right. And it's completely different for some of us who have been used to going, I can neglect this because I'm just going to buy that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a cool thing. Zerg, he's being the number one guy, doesn't even have premium. So it's literally it showed just as to show like you can literally play the entirety of the game and you're taking that doubt out of my mind. I'm not losing because that guy's paying a lot of money. I'm losing because the guy's just beating me. You know what I mean? And I think that's good for the health of a strategy.
Holy.
I don't even, apart from like trader cards, I'm not even looking at the store or thinking about the store. Personally, I'm playing premium, so I think with premium, you get 20 Commander of All cards per day. And that's more than enough to get me to do all the things I want to do, actually. And I also like that the prices for the factions went down because they were more expensive earlier. So it's, for some people, might have been hard to really look at that and say, worth buying, but now they're cheaper. It's an easy pickup, I think.
Oh yeah, I think that's definitely been the biggest hit. We kind of just had a conversation about that before the podcast started. You know, I talked to all the guys. What have you missed the most from the store? Yeah, and it's definitely been the traders. And I think that's something. Though eventually, I mean, once again, it's a new thing. Especially if you're solar flare heavy. If you get unlucky with 3 metal suns in a row, you're going to be in trouble trader wise. But and especially why you don't have a lot of stations in the beginning, so you don't really have the flexibility to move it around as much as you want. And once again, not having as many warehouse opportunities definitely has posed an interesting thing.
I think because this server was also supposed to be the tournament, they wanted to keep it fair, and so they don't want to open up the store for those potentials. So this server is probably one of the few ones that they would do that, where they leave the store closed. So I'm sure most of the future ones. Well, you're right.
I would hope. I mean, obviously, if it's a carefree server, like a random server down the road, beta 3, right? I wouldn't mind the store being up. Even when the store was up, I don't think it gave incredible advantages, especially because you're playing an alliance game, like we always talk about, the team game. Mm-hmm. But I can see them doing more along the lines of that, and they've also said they're super open to doing all kinds of different servers. But especially as their team grows, as their art team grows, I can see them going more and more cosmetics. Because I've talked to a ton of people, it's like, I will buy the crap out of that. Like, give me any kind of a skin. I don't even care if it's good or not. I'm buying it. So
especially the new claim painters that they have teased for the past year. Those are going to instantly be bought by quite a few players, including myself. And I think that's definitely something that they could expand upon for not only being bought in the store, but for victory conditions, and hopefully to make future servers more competitive with actually, I want to go for first place. I'm not going to go AFK for second, or this sort of play style where people are happy to sit back and go AFK to win. I think actually having to fight for your victory and not just sitting back is something that would definitely be healthy for the game going forward.
Also, 100%. With the new win conditions for alliances or even individuals, they could do some MTX stuff there as rewards that will really make people push in order to get that, because they just wanted the reward.
Yeah, I'm very excited about the idea of they kind of mentioned a per capita system for various objectives, where you could even let the alliance go a little bit bigger, let caps go a little bit bigger, but everything's per capita. How many, obviously GTs won't work like that because there's not enough GTs, but just rating for this week, you get a point if you get the most rate, or something like that, right? If you have a little 3-man, 5-man alliance, because I know a lot of people want to do stuff like that, and at least would get them started, right? If you think, I can do something with 3 to 5-man alliance, you might stick around in the game to the point where you'll finally get into one of the bigger alliances. Because I think a lot of people go into a game, realize, oh my God, there's pre-mates in the game, I'm going to die in this sector, or, even if me and the 2 guys I met here do something, it's worthless, right? So I'm excited for that kind of stuff, to give people, meaning, or give them, because especially if a 3-man alliance gets too many points or something, obviously the bigger alliance can do something about it. You know what I mean? It's not we can't do anything else. So all that kind of stuff's so interesting to me, to try to pull off any of that kind of stuff. His spice of gameplay.
Yeah, alternate win conditions is something that I have spoken about before with my own coalition, and I think is going to be helpful to not just the bigger teams, because they've got their guys competing against each other, but also for the smaller guys who haven't got a big team, who are able to go and compete with the big teams for a specific objective where they're not going to be 20 versus 1. And I think that's more fun. Even if it's just something silly like, I got points for augmenting the most outposts this week. It could be anything. And one victory point for that, I think it wouldn't dent the bigger teams. And I just think it's something you can go, oh, I've earned this by doing this. I've made an impact onto the game. And that's what I think has been lacking for a lot of the newer players. They don't feel like they make an impact on the map or on the scoreboard, on the leaderboard. Making an impact is something so important that I think going forward, Solid Clouds have so far said they will, but making the little guy more important and more impactful is going to definitely help the player retention of the game.
100%, man. And anything for player retention, I know you've mentioned before, everybody's mentioned before, that's what we're in for. You know what I mean? No one wants to play a game that no one else is playing, right? Like, and that was one of the big thing with the bugs. You know, we had like the big bug meeting. We're like, all right, what are we going to do to keep players in the server? And I remember my guys suffering through all these bugs, right? And they could care less about that as much as are the other alliances gonna quit? Because I don't want to play if the other alliances quit, right? Like they want to play, they want to compete, they want other people to be in there, and that all starts from the beginning. That starts with the little guys. That starts with the guy when we first spawned into the game, not knowing what the game is, giving us something to work for, and keeping that interest in the game, because eventually you will build up. You know what I mean? It's a very possible route. So any kind of like that, I'm excited about.
Yeah, I mean, anything to actually help the game be more fun for not just the big teams, but for everyone in general will definitely be a good direction. And
yeah, I think it's already fun for us, right?
Yeah, it's already.
That's why we're still here. You know what I mean?
We already got our setups. We're already getting ready. Even if there's a few bugs, we're trying our best to work through it and do our best. But there are guys that I've seen around the place who have gone, can I join your team? But no, I haven't got any space at the moment. Can you wait for a spot to kick up? And they're like, I can't play in this situation. I'm just going to go AFK. Yeah. I think that's something that, if couldn't be avoided, definitely should be edited. Unfortunately, with the way the game works, I can't have everyone in my team, right? You don't have the spaces. I want to recruit all these new people, teach them. I can still teach them, but I can't add them to my team. And I think even if in the future we just get more people to make training alliances or whatever, there just needs to be more systems for the new guy to be like, I don't have a clue what I'm doing. Please help. And I think the tutorial that was talked about for the beta or for after the beta or whatever, that's going to be a massive boon for everyone in the community.
Got these 2-week servers, right?
Those servers are supposed to be coming up as well. I think that's another thing.
Right? The starting server, the first server you ever played, from what I understand, should be a 2-week server, so you can get into the game. And once you've completed that, you kind of qualified to play a real server, quote unquote, real server. Yeah. There would probably be a possibility for people that are mentors to get their accounts tagged so they can play in those servers and actually teach new players and be there, support them, and show them stuff, guide them, maybe even give them small goals.
And that sounds like it would tie in really well with those alternate objectives and stuff. Those objectives that take short amount of time or like week-long things that would work really well with short servers.
100%. Yeah. So, what have you guys been surprised about with the new server? What's something you came in and you're kind of shocked?
Something that definitely took my guys by surprise was the importance of the organizations for growing your station. And this was something that actually stonewalled a bunch of guys, including myself. We were thinking, they're just companies. They're not going to give us anything important. And then when you read the small print, you're like, oh, whoops. I should probably build one of those. I think a lot of the people in my team definitely underestimate Atlas. So I went for Terran into Atlas, and I haven't regretted it so far. But
they're also pretty good on influence boost, like just for snowballing your influence and getting levels faster. That's been a big part of some starting strats, just building organizations early.
Yeah, I think there are, as it's been said, is that you've got the fact that you've got these organizations and you've got all these things. You can go different builds for each stations, and it's just so good for the game. Like, I no longer have to go for certain buildings in my tree just to actually build a certain building in my tree. I can now have a completely modular station, and that's been such a good feeling so far.
Yeah, I feel like my stations really have like personality, or like when I'm talking to other people about like, oh, what does your station do? And it's like, oh, this is what mine does. It's like, oh, crap, man, that's kind of cool. Like you went that direction, or you built this organization instead. Even if you're doing both like the industrial versions where you're building a mining colony, right? Like there's still so much other stuff you're doing. And I know a lot of people I mentioned earlier is like the not building a warehouse because, oh, well, I don't have to build it. I'm not going to build this there. And then you kind of get stuck with it. has been a pretty interesting way of going about it.
Yeah, that's actually. I definitely liked the fact that the warehouse was no longer required to actually start off, and that you had a certain cap on your station per level. That's actually been something that's helped a lot of my guys out for forgetting that, I've claimed a task reward, I had 5k, and now I've lost these resources. That's not fun when you're just clicking so much that you forget to do one little process and to check that you're not full. And the actual resource caps are a lot more viable, and actually they're a lot better now than they were.
They're definitely better now. I really liked when you start out the game, I think you have 12k of each, and then you start out with 5k resources. And I thought that was I really enjoyed that little bit more boost. When you build a new station, you're not at, I think, what was it, at like 1,000 each or something so small.
I think it starts at like 3,000, but you start with 1,000.
Yeah. Now you're starting out with so much more cap, and it gives you that flexibility in the beginning that I think was really needed. So I've been excited about that.
What surprised me was resource generation. Like, I was, from the flow tests, really worried that resource generations of passive stuff would feel really bad, be really low. And on the first day of the server, it actually felt to me like that. But I think that's down to many of us, like rushing through tasks, claiming the resources, just building up your station to be like high levels on all the buildings where they start costing a lot. And then you're lagging behind with your resource generation, where as soon as you start building your trading ports and mining facilities and actually increasing it, it starts feeling a lot better. And we've seen some of the guys who want to play industrials and they go really hard into resource generation. They can pull off some really sick numbers. It's really interesting.
I would say higher than before as well, right? Would you say?
Yeah, I mean, if you stack everything, seems like if you specialize into it, you can get better with it now than you could before.
Which is something we really didn't expect. You know what I mean? We thought it was going to be a complete nerf. And also NPCs got way better. That was something else that, like you mentioned on earlier with Zaox being better. NPC level 2 and 3s all of a sudden have a purpose, a little bit at least. You know what I mean? If you're willing to take that hit, you get a lot of resources.
And from what I can tell, like I haven't done it myself, but what creators have been saying is like it's completely worth it. Like just taking the few losses, like you can mitigate the losses a lot if you send a lot of ships that can carry a lot of resources. The NPCs just have so much.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like all of the playstyles got buffed, but you're more stonewalled into going for one playstyle overall. But I think that's a positive change at the end of the day.
Yeah, it gives you personality.
Earlier, you were like a jack of all trades. It was kind of easy to flex. Now you are forced to specialize, or you're really not good at anything. I like that. It really means that you have a role and you go hard on it. You become really good at it, and then the team play aspect becomes better or more strong due to that, because you have to then play together with the people that are good in certain areas where you just are really bad at.
Sure. Yeah, it seemed like all the different play styles in the past one were just close enough. Like you did get boosts and stuff, but they weren't significant enough that it's like you only have to do this now. That now you actually, you can really specialize, and those boosts are significant enough to justify doing that.
Something else that I caught off guard on was, prior to all the stations, you had to have those basic buildings to get anywhere, like the scan strength increaser, right? And not realizing you actually, unless you're building out the probes, but especially early when you don't have high enough strength ones for your scouts, I just didn't have. I actually missed my tutorial. I couldn't figure it out because there's no missions around there. I wasn't able to find them, so I was like single doing them around me, hoping to ping one. But that's something that really caught me off because before it was just like, okay, you have this basic scan thing. More than likely you'll just build a scanner because I guess it's here and it give you a good like task rewards, right? You get the extra scouts, so that's nice, whatnot. Now that you have less outposts too, which I don't think we really touched on too much, I'm not building a scanner. That's not where I'm going. So obviously I didn't build that in my first station. I didn't build any kind of scan increase. I took the 4 domain buildings that really went up the Stargate. But it was like the station harvest increasing, streaming labor, and the 4th one I'm like getting carrier stuff. You know what I mean? Like there's other good options that I was like, increasing the range of my scanning station felt bad. You know what I mean? Like it's something you actually kind of have to go out of your way for. which I wasn't expecting. That's one that really caught me off guard.
But that's back to the point where if you want to have that,
it's
especially
there.
like either for mission running or just to be safe to have vision on the area you're in, you have to invest into it, right? You don't get it for free anymore or as easy.
Right.
So opportunity cost.
I think that another change with the Outpost, so that was overlooked a little bit, and I love, is the fact that the mining colonies can no longer give you labor. That is an amazing change, I think.
Yeah. Oh, man. It gave uniqueness to the Hab Dome again. And then they buffed the Hab Dome. But we always talked about why build a Hab Dome when you can just build a mining colony that will get you almost as much labor, but then also give you all these other resources, right? So yeah, that's definitely a huge one. I really have enjoyed that.
The only reason I ever built a Hab Dome before was because of the company.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Because you're not locked in so much. Yeah, that's a very good point.
I think that it's been a long way since the Alpha 8 Hab Dome clustering.
For sure.
Oh, that was painful. That was so painful.
Like we used to take screenshots of the map where we planned out our cluster, open that and just paint in like, okay, Hab Dome here, Hab Dome there, Fortress there, Stargate here, here's the station, there's that station, just to get everything covered. Really map it out. Don't feel like I need to do that as much anymore, but I found myself actually taking a screenshot this time around and like planning out some stuff just because like Outposts become so much more important now because you don't have access to as many per station.
Infinite, basically.
So I feel like smaller quote unquote clusters where you build some station close to each other so they can take effect of each other's outposts is pretty valuable. So I'm starting again to look at the map and like just plan out, okay, place this outpost here as it reaches that station, then I can have this and that, and just I put a lot more thought into it now.
Yeah, but then you also are debatably going to be having less stations. So it's like then also every time you make a cluster, it's like, oh man, well now, I might not be able to get as many areas locked down as I was prior. So, I mean, there's trade-offs in every way. And I've just thoroughly enjoyed it. Just having basic conversations with the guys. It's been like, you're learning something new every time. Obviously you should, but it's in unique ways that you might not, necessarily have been thinking about, which is awesome for, I think, the health of the game.
I've heard some confusion over Empire unique buildings the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
So the idea was first like somebody was surprised because you can only build one station. So it's like, oh, well, it's unique, right? And I think that comment threw off some people. Thought, oh, you only get to build one EUB the entire game. Like, no, you get to build one EUB every station, but you can't build the same multiple times throughout your empire. So
that caught people off guard too.
Yeah. So that changed a few people's plans. But I like him. It opens up like specializations for certain stations where you like can do something really powerful, but you can only do it once. Makes me think plan out a lot more. And I enjoy the planning aspect. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I liked where Snugum said, that it might be going in the future where, there's more, he's totally planning to add more yups throughout the game. And like, oh, here's this really unique one you can get through like spy. He said stealing it from a spy thing or like going and raiding someone and pulling one of these unique buildings that's actually unique that you have to obtain. Like when you take down a level 4 NPC, you might get this special unique building. Like these building plans that you're allowed to use, which I was like, oh man, like that gets your head really spinning.
The only thing I would hope is that it's not a chance to get it, because then RNG gets involved and some people just get really unlucky while others get it on the first try.
Yeah.
If they do something like that, it should just be like, do this one thing and you get the task completion. So now you can build this yup. All right, cool.
Oh,
Gives
yeah,
you, again, like a small goal to achieve because you're like, after that, yup. So you go out of your way to do something that you otherwise wouldn't do, probably.
Like a more PvE, acquisition or PvE challenges and stuff that are more
something
difficult.
like that. Just think about all the stuff you can do. Like maybe they add more stuff to the map, like instead of just resource fields, like black holes and whatnot. And then it's like, oh yeah, settle near a black hole, build this outpost there, and do this and that, and then all of a sudden you get this yup or something else.
Man.
There's a lot in the future that they could do, but to start off with, the game needs to be stable.
I think the replayability has actually been increased now that there's more uniqueness in the actual, not only your building of stations, but also the build order of each station and the placement of each station. They all matter. You're going to have more replayability of actually trying out all these different play styles now.
That's a good thing to bring up. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we I think as an alliance we kind of came up with I think about like 6 different like unique roles that you could kind of pick between or do, and I'm like we're doing them, and I'm like like I kind of really want to do that other one too, you know, like okay next server, you know what I mean, and that's a good mentality to get into. It's not just changes that you're excited about; it's you're actually excited about this current game just at next server as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I definitely want to do like full Sayok, like full plunder, just go crazy. Like not even go for an alliance win or coalition or anything. I want to see how it feels to go like crazy. Raid everything dry.
Right.
Just see how long can you survive until the people around you get really like fed up with you. Yeah, there's a lot of like replayability now. I look at MPL and see what some of the guys can do, and like it looks really juicy. I'm interested like how good you could be for your team going like all in Atlas, like running missions like crazy and efficiently, but also being like a probing god. If that's something an alliance could really use. Yeah, there's like I looked at the changes to all the new factions and I thought like, oh, you could do this with that faction, you could do that with that faction, and it's just you can't try it all on one server.
So what do y'all think also in regards to running missions if you were specializing in that? Man, I've been really enjoying the accelerants I get from those. They're not a lot, but I feel good every time I get one.
Is it still just the 1 minutes, right? Like,
I think I've gotten a few 5s.
Oh, you get 5s as well. I think for the higher level ones, you could get a 15 as well, but don't quote me on that.
I remember
but it's also like you get cards that you don't need, you break them down, you've got extra credits. Like people underestimate how good mission running is as an additional income for credits. You don't need to go all in on the commerce hub. You can supplement with missions.
So I was actually thinking back to the podcast where we had Snuggums. He had mentioned how every time that a mission gets cleared, a new one will pop up like X spaces around it. And he said that that's useful because you could have 2 players that push the missions together. But what it really made me think of is I don't think that that's necessarily the mechanic of how it'll happen. That mission will just keep traveling whichever way it's going to go. And so if you have 2 players or a lot of players competing for missions in an area, like I don't see any level 1s or 2s around us anymore.
They're getting pushed to the edge of the sector for sure.
I mean, we've definitely pushed them away from us. And so I think that's actually, being that I'm in the middle next to the Dyson sphere, there's really not a lot here. And so
that's why I moved out, man. So, but to me, it always seemed like missions get pushed away from you as though it looks like, okay, what station did the mission running fleet come from? And then it just goes away from that station. It doesn't seem to me like it jumps into a random direction at all.
Mm-hmm.
I always seem to push missions away from me. And then I'm like, god damn it. And then somebody else starts doing missions. So I'm like, yeah, thank you. They're just coming back to me. And we ping pong the missions around.
Well,
I guess it's because I'm in the middle of like everybody up here. I think overall the missions just get pushed away from our cluster. So
yeah, and it's pretty much basically with everything, which I kind of like a lot. If someone near you is doing something, you may want to switch it up because with raiding, it goes with solar flaring, it goes with missions, it goes with basically everything that you're doing in the game. There's no necessarily like, oh, this is the ultimate build. Like if you go just solar flare build, like you're going to be the best there is, because if you do that and the 3 people next to you also do that, guess who's doing well? The raiding guy. You know what I mean? Like he's fantastic. The mission guy, he's like, oh man, I got all these credits. All these freaking credits. And now you can do all this other stuff, so really, and something I've been thinking about a lot is, how do I diversify my incomes? And I was kind of talking about it before, like how I was going to think about that a little bit more, but yeah, between missions, solar flares, raiding, and then just passive resource income, like you can do a lot of different things. And a lot of my decision making has been based off of who am I nearby. And I think a lot of people near me have been like, oh, I'm going to go to the outside of the sector. You get more missions there because that's where they're being pushed. You get more solar flares. But I guess you get a little bit less rating, but potentially more if you're not near the really big rating players. So I've been excited about all that kind of stuff. It gets me excited about, once again, the next server. What am I going to do next server? Hopefully I don't spawn next to some rating people I'm not going to spawn next to Branx's next server. Wait for him to spawn in and get to the other side if I want to do rating. And that kind of stuff's really cool.
But hasn't this server been exciting for you? For once, you weren't spawned in surrounded by enemies.
Yeah, so I'm surrounded by allies, but not from gravity that we got there. But then, right outside, we got like Muse, Fear, We got Zerg and Nonix, and those are like, all in the top 10. They're all running solar flares, all doing the raiding, all doing this other stuff. And I'm like, crap, like, okay, give me back the enemies. Like, but yeah, I did. Luckily, we didn't get hot dropped the server, so that was a positive. I've never spawned into a friendly sector, so it has been a different pace for sure, which is interesting too when you talk about replayability. Like my first time, like, I'm not jumping up missile batteries and stacking my stations like I need to, and it's been kind of hard for me. You saw even my second station I put really close to me because I'm like always so like worried. Like it's just my natural like, okay, you got to plan for. So it's been fun, man. I've enjoyed our start here.
Am I the only one who feels like the pacing is off?
It does feel off. It does. I think that's mainly due to the changing of the tasks, though. The tasks do have a lot of effect on the pacing, and also the influence generation. I think it does feel different.
But then I think back to like the previous server I played, server 10. Like, how far along was I after 1 week? And that I wasn't much further than I am now. It just feels a lot slower to me.
It's felt clunky
once I
to
analyze
me.
it seems about right.
Well, these buildings are taking much longer. And it feels like, I'm putting like the one in there and you're getting the same amount of progress, but it feels like it's just like this one big building or this one choice. And they have like really high resource costs. And like for me, especially the beginning, I didn't have the best one. I popped my minute and pretty much the server went down. And I was like, well, that was supposed to be my boost. And then after I came back from that, felt very chunky. Like I could do something or I couldn't. And it wasn't really like, I don't know. I did not explain it, but I definitely felt it. Is the thing. And I'm sure all that stuff will get ironed out. But I've definitely felt that sentiment.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, like looking back after having played out this round, how it feels like, because earlier we could like compare to previous iterations of the game, like, no, this feels good or about the same. Now so much has changed, and a lot of people, myself included, like when things change, it takes some time to adapt or just get a good feel for it. And once this server is done, I'm gonna definitely look over how the server played out. And I think I'll be feeling very different about it than I'm doing right now.
I think that after this server, a lot of people will change their builds and play styles and their orders. And yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how everyone is after they've ironed out their playstyle.
And then how much they change going into beta. As soon as you iron it out, right? Because like this is going to be the last, I guess technically an Alpha 9 server. So I'm interested to see because they seem to be making a pretty big deal out of beta. So I'm wondering, how much they're willing to flip and do other kind of stuff.
Like I've been wondering. It's like, is beta going to be even more changes than now? Like, do I have to relearn the game from ground up again?
Right.
It's like, okay, I'm excited about changes, right? We all like changes. Like, make my toy shinier. Give me new stuff to play with. But it's also always a challenge. I like a challenge, to be honest. But
the thing I'm hoping most for is, I'm hoping most for a brand new map for beta. That would definitely make me very happy.
Omni said he's working on it.
Stale.
He said he's working on it. I mean, and you recorded the kind of the roundtable they had, and he mentioned, and because I've talked about this before, and obviously none of this is confirmed, but I liked where he was talking about, potentially stocking up resources more in the middle and making everyone kind of spawn on the outside and have the veteran players going for these more advantageous middle areas that may be more contested. So there's more fighting, but newer players can kind of seep on the ends, seep on the outsides, and maybe actually get something done and not be so harassed, because it is kind of a pain. Like you need raid targets in the beginning, and it is unfortunate for some of these people. Like, and you do try to help out as many people as you can, but some people just don't reply and they're like, whatever. And I'm like, you need to keep the machine going. Or someone will ping me, hey, am I allowed to attack this guy? And I'm like, yeah, like we can, like it's a war game, right? You know what I mean? At the end of the day, but it is tough. So anything to keep a little bit more of a separation. I liked where he's going with that map idea, and then even multiple map ideas. Like I'm all in for anything really. I love new map ideas and kind of making you rethink how you play a game.
Here's what I want to see. I want to see a server where the cap of 5,000 players can spawn in, but it's just one sector. Just like Libro or something. Like everybody all in, like duke it out. I want to see how that would play.
So rather than like you have a bunch of guys that like if your pre-made wants to spawn in, like it just random, you're anywhere and everywhere.
Well, I was also thinking about like just like a 3-sector server where you just pick red, blue, or yellow or whatever. You just one of those 3 teams, and you just spawn in on one. And there's just 3 sectors, and you all build up in your own little sector. You're automatically in the team and the alliance when you get there. You could pick however, and then just kind of do like a little battle royale, like a 3-way like thing. I've always like thought about those, or just like a 2-sector thing, like something really small. Because people talk about they wanted a shorter game or like a 3-week game. And I could imagine something like that in a shorter times could be made work. But I'm also more interested in long games too. I'd be down for them double the whole thing and let's just crank it out.
Double the whole thing? Don't you remember the 12-week-long servers?
I loved it, dude. I come from the games for like 8-month-long servers. Like I would just sit there and like things move nice and slow. I can go to work. I can miss a day. Like, you know what I mean? And you're still fine. You're still sitting pretty.
I think where we're at is probably right about there.
Yeah.
We're since we're at the end of alpha now, the gameplay has been hashed out pretty close to where I think it'll be for the final build. And yeah, I think beta is going to be testing those things, which are going to, they're going to be the final player retention things, like all those short servers to retain new players, and then the really long servers to give the veterans some really crazy bragging rights.
Well, I think where the game's at right now, as far as retention, is about as good as it gets. I think a 2-month makes it just long enough so you can make long-term plans, and that's what you're really getting from this game. You're not looking for a 15-minute Fortnite match. You're looking for this long, strategic, drawn-out game. But then, obviously, drawing it out too long, like I was kind of messing with, it's not for everybody. And that's obviously, once you feel like you're down, you quit the game early, and games like that already have that problem. You can see it here. So I think I like 2 months. I like where that's at. I think it's a good amount of time. I don't think it's too long where you're stuck or things get stale. And I can see the early, the mid game, and the end game kind of forming in a really good situation where we're at. So I've liked it so far for sure.
I've romanticized with an idea that somebody in chat just mentioned, a persistent server. How do you think that would play out in this game?
Well, the problem with type of games like this, right, is you have no retention. Like there's no way to just jump in. Even a persistent server, if you jump in 2 months late, you're going to feel so behind. And God forbid we ally up with Biggles at the beginning of a persistent server. We drop in with 200 guys, say, hey guys, retention is going to be crazy. We can only have 100 guys in a coalition, but we'll just take the 200 veteran Starborne players, drop them in. Let's just play the persistent server. There's not any rewards. There's not any bragging rights. So obviously you'd fix that kind of stuff, but I don't know if it works with this game type. And because I like the freshness of politics. I like
maybe the way you would
into a new
Maybe the way you would do that is like 1-sector server, no alliances, no coalition, no name. Like everyone's red in this persistent server. So there's no real direct team aspect. You can still kind of work with players, but there's no like alliance assaults or anything. So you're kind of on your own. And the objective is how long can you last? So the longest lasting player, who would also be the strongest player, always has the biggest target on their back. I think that'd be a pretty.
I'd just be so upset. You get to a year, you're the longest lasting player, and then someone just nukes you because it's like you can't do anything versus a horde, right? And I don't see what I'm getting from that. You know what I mean? I like closure. I like the fact that it comes to an end. I like at the end of 2 months, I can say, okay, I won. I put in this much time. I did it. I
mean, like, I'll reference a game that a lot of the community, people in the community know, and this is a closed game, so EVE Online, right?
Yeah.
Persistent server. Geography matters. People can take space and everything. And there are big groups that last for quite some time and are like the powerhouses. But they don't stay forever. And like if you had a persistent server here, I think that would be the same thing. Like people start an EVE Online, they feel like, I need to catch up, but they still do, and they can still accomplish a lot. I'm I mean, it's unrealistic thinking about it for this game, but I think this idea is like a romantic idea for me, like persistent Starborne server that just goes on the side.
Right. Well, what are your thoughts, Biggles? You got anything on this one?
I think a persistent server would only work if the gameplay was severely tweaked. I think that right now, if you had a persistent server, it would snowball out of control too quickly. I think the inclusion of some sort of Titan units or some sort of primary objective to complete would be a much more interesting for that sort of server. I think that in this current build, a persistent server would have no good impact for player attention at all. I think it would be more of a King of the Hill battle where people come and join to try and topple the people who are already ahead. I don't see how it would work at the moment.
You'd have to cap progression at, like, say, 10, 12 or something stations, and they're like, nah, you can't get more than that.
You'd be nuking your stations all the time, though, like just trying to move anywhere, right? Because it's such a it is such a persistent game, right? Right, but then like trying to play long term. Well, so I would actually more than a persistent server, and less like I guess more than a 2-month server and less than a persistent server. Something where there's just an end goal. There's no time. But say if you just capture 50 GTs, the game ends. But there's no time as long as it takes to get 50 GTs. Now I'm a little bit more interested. Now there's something I can shoot for. Now other people can I'm just here to hold this one GT to make sure those guys don't get it. I think that would be more along the lines of something that could be considered a persistent server. The idea it could last to the end of time, but there is a cap, right? If someone's running away, then that's to stop the runaway. You know what I mean? If one guy's just, okay, we've won, what do we do now? Do I not log on for 2 weeks and see if maybe there's someone for me to crush? Because I do kind of agree a little bit more with Biggles. Where it is right now, I don't see it because it's so permanent. Your stations are stuck. Whereas I think Eve, you're pretty much a lot more maneuverable.
Yeah.
Though I have only played it a very little amount, so I don't know the in-game politics and stuff like that.
I am just hoping that in future servers that new political features are added to the game. I would love to see vassalization be added to the game because that would be something I'd be very interested in. Because if you're a new player and you've just been defeated by a bigger team and you've been vassalized, you're not out of the game. You're not bombed out. You're still there. You might not be in a victory spot, but at least you're still playing. And I think something like that could be definitely interesting for the game. It have to be configured correctly. But I think that's an idea for the future.
I really like the idea, and I've actually thought about that idea as well. Whereas, because I'm trying to come up with ways that, we have our coalition, right? We have our 4 alliances, possibly 3, depending on what server you're on. And you have all these other alliances. I like the guys. I don't want them to die. And then you kind of get them to be, like a sister alliance. We often call them like a reserve alliance, although they're kind of their own thing still. But to actually have them be part of the team, I got my word on you. Maybe you get some kind of lesser rewards, but it's more of because the stuff I'm willing to offer is I'll invite you to the Discord. I'll teach you the game. I can help you. I can give you, you can be part of the operations, stuff like that. I really do truly like getting those people involved. I guess that's my obviously goal. I love meeting new players. I love getting them involved. But there's no permanency in game, just there's no chat really in game. You have to use the Discord. You have to use these third-party systems to do what would be a really cool stamp of approval. I'm not just going on recruitment and saying, hey, I support this alliance. It's more of these guys are vassalized, these guys are part of the team. Anything like that I love the idea of. So that's a very good point.
There's so many things there's so many things that can be added that it's quite daunting for not just the players, but also the devs to actually include something, especially since that including a tiny thing could change the entire meta in ways we haven't seen before.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think the devs are definitely doing a fantastic job managing what they can. But it's but it's hard, right? When there's so many ideas and it's alpha. So so many things can change, right? And you can almost be part of it. So it's a lot of people will, freak out, in the Discord because it's oh man, they might actually listen. Yeah, and that's a pretty unique thing as well. So I think a lot of the loudness comes from a lot of love too, and you're trying to create this game as much as I know obviously they are actually creating the game, but you want to see it happen, almost as badly as they do. There's definitely a lot of passion around for that.
Mm-hmm. And massive props to the developers for putting up with the very aggroed player base this week.
Oh yeah, that was yeah. People got pretty upset.
Who are you talking about?
Yeah, we kind of did talk a little bit about future speculation here, but for the last 10 minutes, what do you think we ended on talking about some of the issues of the game that we just went through?
I mean, this really is the Space Flu server. You log in and all of a sudden you don't have a UI. I mean,
I want this to be a comforting moment for everyone listening. Okay, we're as the top two possibly coalitions between us and Biggles. It's happening to all of our players. You're not alone if you're taking on massive amount of bugs. You can't log in.
There's
you
been
can't
many
see solar flares till you log out, and then when you log back in, there's a new Space Flu animation that bogs down your computer and logs you out of the game again, so you have to relog. And yeah, we're out there.
I've paid twice, in some cases 2.5 times for like tier 4 buildings. Like I build it and then it got stuck on retry, so I refund half my resources. So I've already paid for an extra half of it, and then I build it again and it gets stuck on retry again. So then I wait and have to build. So I paid double and a half for a few. It's been it's affected us all.
You finally get everyone to contribute to your alliance station, and then it decides not to build.
Man, that one hurt.
The industrials decide to not even leave.
Because we were so
or like having to relog to see solar flares, or opening a cache and only getting 2 cards. It's like,
we get 2 cards all the damn time.
We're essentially playing Starborne on hard mode right now.
Oh yeah, but it's
Starborne on hard mode.
You go, Biggles.
Yeah, but to me, it's also like part of the bragging rights, right? So like server 1 S9, server 1 Alpha 9 was pretty buggy as well, right? So, but that's part of the bragging. Like, I was there, I survived it, right? That makes you kind of a hardened veteran to just be able to say like, okay, this sucks, it's annoying, but I'll play on. I'll play with my friends here, where we'll still have a good time and see where it goes.
If your alliance members will survive this, imagine how they'll do on a non-buggy server. That's how I tell people to do. Just stay strong. I want you, if you're willing to stick through this, where you can't even log on, you can't do anything, you're stuck on frozen screens. When that's not happening, you're going to be a valued member of our team, right? Like, I want you to stick around.
I think the worst part was having the new guys who we've just brought in, who are teaching them the game, and then they get stuck on creating Empire or loading notifications or whatever for days, and they had problems getting for days. And I think that was the worst part. At least being able to get into the game and having to relog a few times, that's at least playable. But I feel bad for my guys who weren't able to log in, and a few of them did just walk away from the tournament server because of it.
Yeah,
I think, again, props to Omni for actually manually helping out the guys who were really bugged down. But unfortunately, some guys just did not want to play anymore with that situation. And that's totally their choice. I mean, it was terrible at the start. Let's be real. I lost so many resources, so many cards, and so did my guys, so did your guys. But I think at least now we're going to make a fun server of it. And I think that's what really matters at the end of the day.
The Space Flu is indiscriminate.
Yeah, like we spent some days after the bad start talking to a lot of our guys about like just trying to up morale. Like, yeah, we're still gonna stick around. We're still gonna play to win. We prepared for this. We were excited to play with each other again in a great server, and it might not have started out well, but the server's still here. We can still play and have a good time. And it took some effort and energy, but I think we fought through most of it, and now we're doing whatever we can to really make this an exciting server and just provide content, right?
Yeah, as hard as it may be, you gotta push through. But yeah, we had a bunch of guys leave as well, and we're lucky enough. We had some random people spawn in our sector. I think a few people did, and next guy up. Luckily, some people were able to log in, but yeah, I've seen all weekend, man, new players not being able to log in. I'm excited for the game. I want to spawn in, and just putting them even further back behind us. You know what I mean? Especially with a game like Starborne, where every day in the beginning, obviously it's not the end of the world if you miss a few days in the very beginning, but it hurts, and especially for min-maxers. A lot of people, are going for that number 1 spot. And I know I'm getting back into the veterans. But for new players, especially, man, I'm sitting there on Discord. I'm trying to just, I try to calm them down and like, please, man, like it's worth it if you just stick through it. Like I promise. But it's tough, man.
Yeah, we had E-Boats here in chat is saying like he would walk away if it wasn't for voice chat. Like that, I think that just goes to say how big of a part community is to this game.
Mm-hmm,
People you play with, the people you spend like hours talking
yeah.
to, be it through text or in voice, and you kind of create a relationship, right? To me, it's more than half of the reason why I play this game.
Oh yeah.
Well,
For sure.
One of my favorite parts about these servers being down, because we're going these long periods of the server being down, right? Everyone's like, what should we do? Want to play Realm of the Mad God? Okay, yeah, we'll do that. Last night we are like, okay, let's play what was it? Terraria. Like, okay, everybody jump into Terraria. We just do like big servers of other games, guys I wouldn't have met otherwise, that like, we're just all jumping on these other games because like, well, we can't log on Starborne and now even more, it's like, okay, well, we set up our queues, let's go play another game. And it's actually, we've kind of pivoted a lot. I think a few of our guys, we've been, playing more games than just this together. And I think that plays a huge key into luckily keeping the guys we are keeping. Like, look, man, I'm talking to you. It's okay that you're not doing well. It's okay. Like, I know several people have mentioned themselves being like, quote, like dead weight. And I'm like, don't ever call yourself that. You know what I mean? Like, we're still doing well. We're still in it. The other side is getting hit just as bad by this. Like, don't give up. Stick with it. And if I can get a guy in voice, I can talk to him through that. Like, let them know, like, every guy is so valuable, like that's just like my key point is like, no one from Gravity is getting dropped unless you are absolutely like, I cannot play anymore. Like, that's the only time you're getting kicked out of this alliance. Every person that ever gets in the alliance, you're not leaving unless it's on your own accord.
And even then, it's not so much that like, oh, you're getting kicked out, you can never come back. No, it's like all these guys,
please
like,
come back.
Yeah, you're always welcome. Always welcome back in the
leave.
Mm-hmm.
I know you might be playing other games. I'm just, whenever I have downtime or the server's down, I open up the spreadsheets.
He gets it going, dude.
Which I think this is a good challenge for Solid Clouds then, is to which the game is fun as it is when it works. But just adding that little bit more to make sure that it's compelling enough to keep us off those other games and keep us on Starborne. I think that's the challenge.
It's not just the game, though. As you said, it's the community that we've made a part of, and it's our teams who we've formed, and the loyalty our team has, or the distrust, or all these different things you can get from your team. And it's just so good to be able to go, oh, I've got this team I've been playing with for so long. We know each other enough to go, oh, I'll trust you enough. We'll go play a different game. We'll just chill. The server's down or whatever. We'll go play this. We'll go mess around. My team's been doing it as well. We've been just trying the best to make good of the situation. And I think our community is just so good for actually enjoying the time we have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a game that lends itself to like creating a community that is not just about this game, because if this game lasts so long, it's quote unquote kind of slow at times, right? So you're open to just sit around and talk about life and just do other stuff together. I've met a lot of cool people here that I'm really happy I met on both sides.
Oh yeah.
Previous enemies that now become friends.
All the time.
I just can't wait to see the player party personally. Who actually goes?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm hoping for a very good date. Like I want to go so badly, but like the whole like between January, like after the server ends, I think at the end of February, like February to like March is like the worst like few like days for me. Like I have so many different plans, and I'm just like hoping the weekend falls correctly and I can make it up there, because I really want to go see everybody.
Yeah, I've already checked like prices for a ticket there, and like hotels and stuff. Like I'm super excited to go there, meet other people that play the game, also meet the devs and everything. Like, and I want to see Iceland. I mean, have you ever seen like movie stuff of Iceland? It's beautiful.
Yeah, a good excuse to the wife, right? Like, look, it's Iceland's beautiful, right? Like, get her to come to you. Go hang out. We need to do like a wife meetup. Like, have all of them just go. I'm gonna go hang out. So
they can all complain about us playing.
Well, you're not supposed to tell her it's about Starborne. You're just like, hey, did you always want to go to a trip to Iceland on this particular weekend?
The chat.
And that's one way to end up in the doghouse.
Yeah, chat Starborne widows and wife support group. Yeah.
Oh man,
wife aggro is absolutely something you hear being brought up every now and then.
I think this will be that's the perfect place to wrap up. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's a good way. Yeah, my wife's calling, right? Like, what are you saying about me?
Well, we ended up, I think most of the podcasts, we ended up talking a lot about future speculation for game modes and future servers, which it's partly a symptom of there was quite a bit of negativity the first few days with all the issues with the current build. But I think that the changes that did work have been overwhelmingly positive, and what it shows is that we're still excited for the game and still excited for what the future holds for the game.
And it's getting there, right? They're fixing the stuff every day that they're in the office. So it's slowly becoming better and better, more stable.
Massive props to Solid Clouds for all the work they've put in.
They've been pushing it.
Mm-hmm. They've been killing it. Even, it's been buggy, but I understand smaller studio. They've been doing great with their situation. Got anything else for us? Primarch of Valhalla?
No, I've got nothing. I just want to remind, I'll go again and say that the devs have done an amazing job, and they've done the best to damage control the situation and help the player base as much as possible. And I hope they enjoy their well-deserved weekend break.
Oh, yeah. It's the first weekend in like 2 weeks or something, right?
Yeah, minimum probably, man.
The Iceland calendar.
Yeah.
Well, much left to the devs. I think we'll sign off here. Be looking out for the player party date when that comes around, and I'm gonna go hop back in and check on my ship queues and stuff, guys.
Yeah.
Solar flares.
Make sure you leave comments. Go ahead and do that shameless plug to smash the like button and follow Branx on YouTube. and I'll be posting on Reddit as well. And hopefully we can get anything with Reddit going.
Don't forget to ping Nihilus.
Ping Nihilus. Keep up the fight against boredom, guys. Thanks so much.
I would say stay casual, but at this point we're in the Space Flu tournament server, so it's
go ham.
Go ham.
Go ham. Casual off, man.
Keep up that fight against boredom, y'all. Outro music is going.